Hello and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. I'm Janna and I'm here to tell you about the new challenge over at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave blog. Our new challenge is featuring Sizzix Tim Holtz dies from chapters 3 and 4. This challenge is open from October 19th through November 4th. To enter, all you need to do is hashtag us, the Funkie Junkie. This can be done on Facebook and Instagram. So we greatly look forward to seeing all of your fantastic creative makes. Today, I'm going to be featuring some of the new Tim Holtz Christmas dies from Chapter 4. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the new Plaid die. So I'm going to be walking you through a card and how to use this die. If you'd like to know exactly which materials I'm going to be using, go ahead and pause here. As always, we greatly look forward to seeing all of your wonderful creative makes, so don't forget to hashtag us, and directions, as always, are down in the description box. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be focusing on some of the new Tim Holtz Sizzix Christmas die sets. Specifically, we're going to be looking at layered plaid and modern festive fun. To die cut these, we're going to be using a variety of Idea-ology substrates. We've got Kraft stock warm, Kraft stock cool, metallic Kraft stock, regular Kraft stock, and a piece of distress heavy white mixed media. All of these we're going to be backing with some double-sided adhesive. This is going to make our card assembly process so much easier after we start die cutting. So we're going to be bringing in the Tonic Tim Holtz trimmer to trim down some of our cardstock. Layered plaid has 3 different dies, and I'm going to be roughly measuring out the die so that we can pre-cut our Kraft stock. So our first measurement is 5 1/4, and our second is by 4 1/4. We're now going to trim down our pieces of cardstock to make die cutting a little bit easier. Okay, so we're just going to slide the metallic on, and we're going to give this a quick trim. I absolutely love the convenience of this trimmer. It is very easy to put away in a small space and so convenient for tabletop crafting. So we'll just quickly trim down our cool Kraft stock as well. I'm definitely going to be saving these scraps. These are going to be useful for future projects. And now the warm colored Kraft stock. So this is our last piece of cardstock for our layered plaid. Now that we have this all nicely trimmed, we're going to set that aside and stack all of our Kraft stocks together. The white is going to be our base, and the 3 colored pieces are going to be part of our layered plaid. Now I'm going to be adding the double-sided adhesive. So we're just going to quickly put that onto the back of each of these pieces, and I'm trimming it down with some of the Tim Holtz Tonic scissors. Okay, so once our adhesive is on, it's now time to die cut. I'm cutting with the Vagabond. First we need our base plate, our thin adapter plate, then the precision chrome plate, after the cardstock put at an angle, then the die, and last but not least, our final cutting plate. This is going to be our sandwich for die cutting with the Vagabond. Here are all our finished die cuts. Now for the next part of pushing out all the pieces. I decided that I'd try using the Sizzix brush to pop some of the pieces out. It sort of worked, but I found for the large die cut, it's easier to push all those little squares out with my fingers. The brush I have found is definitely more useful when working with intricate dies, but this die is nice and chunky, so in this case working with my fingers is going to be faster. Though I will pull in the small Sizzix die pick for some of those little thin strips between the squares. So with the die pick, I'm going to continue to work my way around this layer of plaid, but this might take a while, so let's go ahead and put this part on fast forward. Now that we have all of our pieces weeded, it's time to start assembling our card base. We're starting with the white base layer. Then I'm going to be adding the widest section of the plaid over the top. As you can see, having that double-sided adhesive is really nice right now because we're not going to have any glue ooze when we go to apply this first layer. So there's going to be a very thin border around the edge of this first layer. So I'm carefully lining up the corners to try to get an even border around this first layer of plaid. All right, just pushing that gently down to make sure everything is in place. Next, I'm going to be going in with the metallic layer for our middle part of this layered plaid. Again, we're just going to carefully peel off that adhesive backing, and I'm checking to see exactly which direction I want the plaid to go in, because depending on how you flip this, you're going to get two different patterns. And that's the really cool thing about this die. It is very customizable, and you get to decide how you want your pattern to look. Okay, so we're going with the gold piece. We're just going to peel off the backing, and we're going to line that up with the corner of the red. And then we will stick that down. Okay, the back is looking good. I'm not seeing any little die cut pieces. Let's gently stick that into the corner. And again, I'm just double checking that this is the layer that I want in the correct direction. Okay, working from the bottom corner up, we're just carefully lining up this metallic level. And already you can start to see the plaid come into focus. That is gorgeous. I'm loving the pattern on this, and it has this really cool textured feel as well. And because of the number of layers that we have, there's also some really interesting dimensional buildup. Okay, so our metallic layer is looking good. Now it's time to go in with our final layer of the green. Again, I'm just going to carefully line this up. I'm going to start in the bottom corner, and then we'll just gently stick this down. That next layer is really adding some dimension to this card. That is looking so good. Okay, so lined up, gently pushing that down, making sure all the pieces are in place and that there's nothing extra hiding out that shouldn't be. Sometimes little scraps like to sneak into places. That layered plaid looks absolutely amazing. Definitely loving this. With the card foundation complete, it is now time to turn our attention to the main focal point of this card. I absolutely love the texture in this. Okay, so for the main focal point, I'm going to be die cutting an oval out of this tag that I created with some of the new Distress mica spray stain. And for the focal point, we're going to be using Modern Festive Fun. But first, we need to do a little die cutting. So here is our oval, and I'm going to be adding this to the card with a few adhesive squares. These are just some foam squares that I'm going to pop on the back of this oval, and it's going to give the card a little bit of added dimension. So we're just going to go ahead and peel the backings off the foam squares and stick this down onto our card. But before I stick this down, I want to distress the edges of this just a little bit with some Distress Ink Vintage Photo. And as always, I'm applying the ink with a dome foam on the mini ink blending tool. I'm just going to gently add a little bit of the ink around the edges of the oval to give that distressed look. All right, so that's looking good. Let's go ahead, center this, and place it down. And then we'll be ready for the next step in our card. All right, I think I like that the way it is. That looks pretty good. All right, now we're going to be pulling in the die set Modern Festive Fun. For Modern Festive Fun, I'm going to be die cutting using some scraps. I have pulled some scraps from my scrap bin, and we're going to be using these pieces to assemble our focal point. I used a little bit of gold for an accent on our poinsettia, and I'm going to be carefully removing some of the little pieces from the pine cones that I also die cut. In addition to die cutting out some pine cones, I die cut some of the leafy twigs and little spruce boughs. This is going to allow us to build a small floral arrangement as our centerpiece for this card. To start this floral arrangement, I am placing some of the greenery onto the distressed oval. I'm roughly placing these right now so that I can get an idea of how I'd like these to look on the final version of the card. And this also gives a nice resting place for where the poinsettia is going to be centering on our card. So some of these I have some double-sided adhesive on them, and this is going to make placement super easy on the card. For the ones that don't have the double-sided adhesive, that's not a big deal because I can just add a few drops of collage medium and that will hold them in place pretty well. Okay, so for the branches, I am trying to mix and match them. I have a combination of solid color ones and I have some with the mica spray stains on them. So I'm trying to alternate the dark and the light colors so that I get a nice solid variety. Let's go ahead and put this next part on fast forward as I finish our floral winter arrangement. For an added touch of distress, I decided to ink the edges of the poinsettia flower with a bit of Distress Ink Vintage Photo. So I'm just going to go over the edges of the flower. Each of the points is going to get a bit of ink, and this should give us a great vintagey look. And that's going to fit in perfectly with the color scheme of our card, kind of matching and reflecting the color of the pine cones. Okay. So now that we have that, I'm going to be adding the little golden accent pieces into the center of the flower with a bit of collage medium. And now for some finishing touches. I'm going to be pulling a sentiment from one of the Idea-ology Christmas sticker books, and we're going to be placing that near the bottom of the card. For this card, I decided to go with the sentiment, Merry Christmas. Nice and simple. So That brings us to the conclusion of our layered plaid card. This has been so much fun experimenting with the plaid and playing with some Christmassy color combinations. But just before we go, we're going to attach the card base to one last layer. I am attaching this base to a layer of cardstock, and this is some of the Kraft cardstock. That little bit of brown is going to give this whole card a very rustic feel. So I'm just going to carefully line this up, and this is going to be the final layer of our card. Okay, not bad. This is looking absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner. This is my card for the latest Funkie Junkie challenge. For details, check the description box down below. And don't forget to hashtag all of your creative makes with the Funkie Junkie. If you're interested in participating in this challenge, all the directions will be in the description box below. And until next time, happy crafting.